you really can't look at your overall experience, because your overall experience it is a compilation of several micro experiences that can last, 6 hours, 6 days, or 6 months, depending on the business model. And it has to be everything from, what a customer, and we have to look at from the customer's vantage point, not ours.
Hi, I'm James Taylor, business creativity and innovation keynote speaker, and this is The Creative Life, a show dedicated to you, the creative. If you're looking for motivation, inspiration, and advice while at home, at work, or on your daily commute, then this show is for you. Each episode brings you a successful creative, whether that's an author, musician, entrepreneur, performer, designer, or thought leader. They'll share with you their journey, their successes, their failures, their creative process, and much, much more. You'll find show notes for this episode, as well as free training on creativity, over at jamestaylor.me. Enjoy this episode. Hey there, it's James Taylor, and I'm delighted today to have on the show John DiJulius. By 2025, AI will power 95% of all customer interactions. But despite of this technological disruption, my guest today argues that the most important part of a great customer experience is relationship building. John DiJulius is a sought-after authority on world-class customer experience, working with companies such as Ritz-Carlton, Lexus, Starbucks, and Progressive Insurance. In his new book, The Relationship Economy, Building Stronger Customer Connections in the Digital, he shows readers how to attain meaningful, lasting relationships with customers. It's my great pleasure to have John with us today. So welcome, John.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
So share with us all what's happening in your world at the moment.
It's just, as far as regarding the relationship economy, I feel with the digital disruption, today's illiterate are those who have an inability to make a meaningful connection with others. And, I think living in the touchscreen age that we're all living in, and that's not generational specific. We like to beat up on the millennials and Gen Zs and all that, but listen, we all are using devices. We have grandparents on social media. And, there's a seismic shift happening in the world today. And while technology's brought us many conveniences and advancements, it's come at a huge cost. And that cost is human interactions, which are vital to customer loyalty, employee satisfaction, and just general happiness.
And it's funny. I mean, your book is, I guess, obviously focused more on the business world, but it kind of comes alongside a number of books which have been focused on almost a similar topic, but more from a definitely an individual personal perspective. There's a book I was reading over the holidays called The Digital Minimalist, I think was the name of the book. Just talking about how today we have all these connections all the time, but we don't really have any great, almost like our communication skills are getting worse, although our connections are increasing. And then we had Nia Eyal on the show. We were talking about distraction, everyone being distracted all the time by their devices as well. So take us back before we kind of get into the nuts and bolts of this book and some of the key learnings from this book. How did you get involved in this world of kind of relationships and helping companies improve their relationships with their customers and clients?
Well, about 27 years ago, I started my first of 3 businesses, and it was just a very small hair salon. And, we had the 3 no's: no money, no employees, and no customers. And so, where we opened up was probably typical to any big city. You could throw a stone in any direction and hit, several competitors. So, we couldn't out advertise. We couldn't build a nicer place at the time. So, we said we'd provide an experience unlike any other hair salon, but unlike any other business that someone could go and experience that day, be it a restaurant, dentist office, you name it. And so that worked, and we started growing. And, 27 years later, I still have that first business. I'm not active in it, but what it did was, now we have deeper pockets, and we still, focus 100% on the experience and advertise, not at all. But from the noise that we were making and the growth that we were making in the early mid 90s, people started asking me to speak, and then that snowballed. And then by 2002, I wrote my first book, Secret Service, on customer service. And then ever since then, I've been consulting and spending 100% of my time working with brands on helping them, be the brand customers can't live without, and ultimately making price irrelevant. That's really important. Making price irrelevant doesn't mean that you can, double your fees or even raise them 25% and not lose existing or potential customers. But what it does mean is based on the experience your brand consistently delivers. Many of your customers should have no idea what your competition charges because they're not out looking.
So you mentioned like this idea of like customer experience. We kind of hear these phrases sometimes kind of moved back and forth. You hear customer support, customer service, customer experience. So are these like just gradations of similar things? Are they very distinct from each other? Or is this really kind of historically in the past, everyone talked about, customer support, but now really what we talk about is customer experience? What's the relationship of those things?
So that's a great question, because I think, 98% of the world uses them interchangeably, and they aren't. And you really have to find, service, many businesses provide services, accounting services, legal services, consulting services. So it starts getting really gray. And if I come to you and say, James, your service is lacking, you can argue that you're the fastest, most accurate, most efficient, which could be very true. But, maybe I want to pinpoint that your attitude, the way you talk to, the warmth, so that could be hospitality, so we do have to iron out what we mean. And so, customer experience, Jim Gilmore, great author of The Experience Economy, says it best. Customer service is what you do, and customer experience is how you do it. And I really like that. And so the customer experience is the culmination of all the touch points that you can have with a brand. So I really think customer experience is the primary focus, at least where I like to live.
Now, one of the things you mentioned just there was about going from thinking just purely in terms of simple like marketing, advertising, to thinking about customer experience, and actually having that in terms of how you place your dollars as a company, or your cents or your pounds or your euros, putting more of that and placing more of that into experience. Can you give me some examples of that?
Well, I mean, so they've done a lot of studies, and if you look at the top customer service, customer experience organizations that we all know of, from the Disneys and Zappos and Amazon and Virgin Airlines, and you go on and on, they spend less in advertising than all their competition. I mean, when you have a great experience, you don't have to be advertising. So, my point of the book is technology is not the enemy. Using it to eliminate the human experience is. So there is a wireless company in Canada that is punishing their customers if they want to speak to a representative. They're trying to force all their customers to use the self-service channels on the web. But if you have a question about your bill, your statement, or support, and you call in, they charge your account $10. And that's the example that you can't eliminate the human experience. There's, a whole generation that, will never use the self-service kiosk. But even, younger generations, if you can't get the answer and get frustrated, you should be able to pick up a phone and speak to a human being and get your resolution.
So I was having my customer experience and experience recently with two different airlines. I was trying to book a ticket on. One was a Scandinavian airline, and the other one was a Middle East airline. And I thought it was interesting where, like you said, the Scandinavian airline, it was impossible for me to have a conversation with someone. Everything had to go through, it wasn't even human customer support teams in terms of the chat. It was actually just a chat bot. And I'm having, and right. You're going through those kind of circular kind of experiences. And then there was another airline, the Middle East airline, where they didn't actually have a chat bot on their website, although they were a very big airline. But they did have a very interesting kind of phone when you picked up the phone, actually had a conversation with them, and it was kind of very high touch. And I was thinking about this, and I actually booked another flight a few weeks later, and I went for the Middle East airline, even though it was actually about a few $100s more expensive than the other one, just because of what I wanted with my experience. Is that just because I'm of a certain age where that's kind of what I'm looking for, whereas maybe millennials are looking more for that? They just really want to do the chat, but they don't want to be picking up a phone, don't want to have those conversations? Or is that too general a rule?
No, I mean, you're exactly right. That's what making price irrelevant is, right? You better be the cheapest or the best. And there's a lot of things. I'm the idiot that'll drive 3 extra miles to save 50 cents on something, not realizing I just lost in that exchange. But everyone listening, watching, you, me, we all have a few businesses that we are so loyal to. One of them is my handyman. His name's Brian Hooper. We call him Hoop. And he's been my handyman for 30 years. Doesn't work for me. But if I need a light bulb change, I need, my basement refinished. And I tell everyone, if you told me that, we were neighbors or something, you said, you got to use Hoop. And you'd be like, what's a Hoop? Oh my God. And I go on about, but what always happens is someone will say, well, how much does he charge? Because my carpenter charges $105 an hour. And that's where I'm embarrassed. I have no idea. I don't know if he's 85 or 160, nor do I care, because he saves me money. He's trustworthy. He's always here. The job's always right. And, every time I've recommended him to anyone, people are more appreciative to me for recommending it. And so better be the best or the least expensive. Starbucks has proven that. Apple has proven that. There's a lot of great companies out there. I don't want to compete in price wars. I want to compete in experience wars.
So that example there you mentioned, your handyman, that's an individual on their own. It almost feels like it's easier to put in those kind of more experiential things when it's you on your own, because you're having that direct relationship with the customer every day. If you have a company, let's say with someone listening to this just now, they have 50,000 employees all across offices, all across the world, and retail locations. You mentioned something in the book about creating these, I think you call them micro experiences, all along the way in terms of that customer journey. Can you give us some examples of those?
And that's exactly what it is. You really can't look at your overall experience, because your overall experience could it is a compilation of several micro experiences that can last, 6 hours, 6 days, or 6 months, depending on the business model. And it has to be everything from, what a customer, and we have to look at from the customer's vantage point, not ours, not is what easiest for us. When the customer goes to our website, if they choose and they want to, send us a message, the website attendant versus calling in, how easy is it to find the phone number? I mean, it's like, sometimes it is crazy to try to find a phone number on someone's website, and maybe they're doing that on purpose. Our website, learning from the best, is there should be a number visible anywhere you scroll, whether you're at the top, the bottom, every page. You shouldn't have to go hunt down a phone number. When someone answers that call, how friendly are they? Are they using their name? Are they getting your name? Are they saying, is there anything else I can do for you today, Mr. Taylor, before they hang up? Giving you the impression that you're all they're worried about, even though they got 6 blinking lights, 172 emails. Just by saying that one thing, is there anything else I can do for you today, Mr. Taylor? Just makes you feel like you're it to them, right? So looking at every touch point from the customer's viewpoint and building those micro experiences, so you're consistent and you're brilliant at the basics.
That's something, you've worked with like the Ritz-Carlton and some of these great hotel chains. They're very good at, they have this kind of checklist way. I know that if I'm going to a Hilton as a Hilton Honors member, I know I'm going to get that cookie. I'm going to, I'm almost kind of like going through the list of things that are going to happen. And there's a kind of warmth from that, because you know what to expect. If you want a certain type of hotel, that's where you go as well. We're now, we're kind of moving now from this age of checklists, which was one way of doing it, which is banned with people like Michael Gerber, or checklist manifesto was one way of doing it. Then we kind of moved into this kind of automation. You saw that a lot with in terms of marketing automation. So the experience from a marketing perspective was more personalized. And we're now moving into this whole AI way of doing things, where it's machine learning. Are you seeing, when it comes to those kind of experiences, how are you seeing companies integrate the AI piece within that? So it does blend that, both the humanistic and the machine elements.
And that's the whole key of the book. Again, technology is not the enemy, and I'm guilty of using technology to the umpteenth degree, but we have to marry the digital experience with the human experience. And that looks like allowing, the AI to do the basic tasks that free up your customer-facing employees to do what's most important. Build that emotional connection, which is so critical to the customer loyalty, employee loyalty. And so that's, being able to, when I land and I'm on my way to the Hilton or the Marriott, I can check in, and I can now bypass the front desk and open the door with my phone and set my room temperature. All those things. That's great. However, when I need a human being, when I need to speak to someone that I can't find, my ESPN or the movie channel, there's someone there that can speak to me, or, whatever, I'm looking for. So having both, the mundane tasks should be outsourced. We don't need to be troubling. The customer doesn't want to be, waiting on hold. I just had to bring my laptop in to Apple. I went online, booked that appointment within 30 seconds. Love that. Versus calling up and be waiting in a queue and being on hold for, what would feel like a half an hour, maybe 7 to 8 minutes. But I don't have 7 to 8 minutes. But being able to book it in 30 seconds. Now, when I get to the Apple store, the human contact is there, and they listen to me and they empathize with how, I need my computer. I can't live without it, like everyone. That's having the balance. That's marrying the digital with the human.
Now, kind of going to your own kind of personal journey, you talked about starting these businesses, building up, working with lots of fantastic brands, fantastic companies on improving their customer experience. Can you tell us about a time in your life when you've worked on something, a project, and you've given it your heart and your soul, but it just didn't work out like you'd hoped? And more importantly, what was the lesson that you learned from that experience?
Yeah, I mean, we could, if you have significantly more time, we could talk about my failures. Yeah, we've opened up locations that didn't work out in the salon industry, and and it's funny that the locations that were the best location, literally the best demographics, and everything, perfect storm, were the ones that failed, and some of our locations that you just would not want because they're so hard to get to. And this, are our most successful per square foot. And, it always comes back to the team, right? I mean, if you have the right team member bought in, the right leader bought in, people will find you, right? People will find you. But, as Walt Disney said, you could build the most, amazing place in the world, but it takes people to make it a reality. So if you have a great place and shit people, that's going to be an empty place that's going to be for sale, on a sheriff's sale pretty soon, versus the opposite, an okay location, okay building with hospitality oozing out of their pores. It's all about the people.
So in terms of your own creative process, I mean, this is your fifth book now, I think
Yeah.
it is. Yeah.
Yes.
So this is your fifth. So
Yep.
congratulations, this is your fifth book that's coming out. Can you talk about maybe at a time that in your own role, as a creative, when, so much of the things you talk about and you write about in terms of building those relationships, creating those micro experiences, do require that you take a step back and you think more creatively about that customer's experience and what they're going through. And this is going to go into the human part as well. What about in your own creative journey? Have there ever been those times where things have become a little bit more kind of challenging for you to come up with those ideas, to come up with those experiences, and
Yeah.
what kind of got you unstuck?
So, one of the things I talk about in the book, and you even open up with this book is as much for personal and at home and with your kids and your significant other and the stranger you meet in the elevator as it is with business. But, they say that the world is facing a creativity and innovation crisis. And it's a result of MSA, mental stimulation addiction. And, I'm sure as I share this, you'll painfully relate, because I think we're all guilty of it today. But, I'll go to the doctor's office and I'll be sitting there for, 5-10 minutes waiting to be taken. So I pick up my cell phone and I check my text. I'll check my email. I'll check all the social media channels. I'll check my ESPN and headline news, right? And I'll put it down. And then within 15 seconds, I'm embarrassed to say within 15 seconds, I pull it back out, not even thinking about it, and I check them all again. Like, what could have changed in those 15 seconds? And, so what atrophy is, right? When the lack of using a muscle, when you take a cast off your arm or ankle, and after 6 weeks there's no muscle there anymore. It atrophied. Well, that's what they're saying that is happening to our brain. Our most important muscle is that we're outsourcing, the lifting to devices, right? And electronics, that we're not, exercising the brain. And the best ideas, everyone says, comes when you're in the shower, right? Well, we don't take enough showers. So the point is that, and there's a great TED Talk called From Bored to Brilliant. And it talks about this, that you have to be bored to be creative. And so, the where I start talking about in my own story, and it's in my book, is the first place you got to create a relationship is with yourself. And putting yourself in situations to be bored. Just sit in that doctor's office and just let your mind wander and see on a sign that he might have negative cues where it says no cell phones pass it. And, if you bounce a check, you're going to be charged, and we're not responsible for, if you leave your coat. And so you see those things. And if you're a good business leader, the two things is, whoa, that's really bad. But the second thing is, do I do that? Do my businesses have negative cues? And then, you realize we do. And how can we change them? And so, people do yoga, people meditate. Things that have worked for me is, I like to exercise every morning. And I'm always listening to a podcast or something. But what I've started doing on a couple days a week is I listen to nothing. And at first it was like, oh my God, but I'll tell you, when I get back from a run, I have to run and find, paper and anything. And because I have so many ideas that came to my head during that 30-minute run, because my brain was idle, and you start thinking. And so we got to, now allows the creativity to come back in. So we got to start a relationship with ourselves, whether that means you're getting up at 5:30 in the morning and not doing anything on technology for the first 30 minutes and just letting your brain go to those places that technology doesn't allow it to go anymore.
It reminds me of that Bruce Lee quote when he said, I think someone came to him for teaching, for instruction in martial arts. And he said, I can't put anything more into you until you empty your cup. Basically, your cup's full. You need to empty the cup so I can put new things, new ideas, new information into it. Otherwise, it just kind of overflows all the time. It actually reminds me, there was something I just saw the other day, which I thought was very funny. Someone saying they were in a Starbucks and a coffee shop, and someone walked in, ordered a cup of coffee, sat down, drank the cup of coffee, 15 minutes, got up and left. And this person, I don't know, was saying this, was like how weird it looked, because at no point did this person take out a phone, have their iPad, read a paper. It looks so weird.
So unbelievable. Come on, show me a video of someone sitting there for 15 minutes and not, that's sad how crazy that story sounds. Like, I don't believe it. There's no way.
So on the positive side, because there are tools that are very useful. You mentioned you listen to a lot of podcasts when you're out running as well. Are there any tools you find particularly useful for the work that you do?
Yeah. So listen, we're all genetically coded to be preoccupied, right? It's my flight that was delayed. It's my client that's upset with us. It's my son that's in trouble at school, or, whatever that may be. And that's a very hard urge when you talk to other people, right? Be it a client, a coworker, an acquaintance, friend, or stranger at Starbucks. But we have to fight that urge, because to build a relationship, it has to be about the other person. So a great technique that we use and all our clients have adopted is anytime we come in contact with someone, you have to find out two or more things of their Ford, like the car, Ford. If you find out two or more things about the other person's Ford, you not only built a relationship, you own the relationship. Because to each and every one of us, our own Ford is our hot buttons. It's what gets us passionate, talking fast, excited, going on too long, rambling. So Ford, F, family, right? Are they married? Do they have kids? How old are their kids? O, occupation, right? What do they do? How long they've been doing it? What's their title? What's the name of their company? R, recreation, right? This is a lot of people's hottest buttons. What do they do with their free time? Are they runners? Are they like dogs? Are they hot yoga? They're coaching little league, whatever that may be. And then D stands for dreams. What's on their bucket list? What's their dream vacation? What is their encore career that they're looking to do next?
Fantastic. Really nice and acronym. Ford, family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. And we're going to have links all to these on the show notes here as well. What about a book? If you were to recommend one book to our listeners, not your own book, but a book by another author that's maybe particularly inspired you over the past 12 months, or you've gifted to more people than any other, what would that book be?
I've been giving out Howard Schultz's, the CEO, a former CEO of Starbucks, his new book. All three of his books he's written are my favorites. And his new book, I'm going to have to pull it up, and I've been giving it out. It's From the Ground Up, and it's just his story. And it's just fascinating, and where he's come, what he struggled, what he overcame, and then building Starbucks, and how they almost went out of business, and how he had to refocus and get back. But also what's really inspiring to me is the social consciousness that company has for addressing and attacking the social causes wherever they're at, from racial discrimination to just so many different things that, I love reading it. That any entrepreneur I'd like to emulate is what he does and has been able to achieve with his success.
And on that note, in relation to customer experience, my wife actually was a beta tester. You just launched a new course on Masterclass, a really good online training course on Masterclass. And she was one of the beta testers for it. And so these beta testers got the first version of the course of him teaching the lessons. And then they were looking for feedback on which parts don't really understand, which parts a little bit, you don't like the linkages between them, which bits you feel you go into a bit more depth. And then the final version, which I believe is out now, had all this feedback that was coming in from all the customers and all the users, just so it could create that better experience for the learner as well. So even when he's teaching, he's also adding that kind of customer experience into it as well.
And he's on the masterclass. I watched it.
Yeah. So fantastic. And so I know it's a Masterclass does a lot. They kind of create these alpha versions and beta versions of the courses before they come out, which is why they're so good. What about an album? We were talking earlier about how you're in Cleveland. A lot of fantastic music has come out from
Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Rock and roll. So any albums that you would recommend or you particularly enjoy listening to?
I love music. And I'm one of the few people probably left that can say this. I actually saw Elvis live in concerts. Yeah, I always say whenever people ask what's one thing no one would ever, know about you, I was only like 9 or 10, but it was pretty cool. I love old music. I love the Beatles. I probably, favor the old music. Elton John, I just, love the older music. It's just, and I think there's nostalgia to it. And, you remember where you were or what you're doing when you're a kid or high school, but love music, always have it playing, in general, just like all music.
And if you were to, I'm going to imagine you woke up tomorrow morning and you have to start from scratch. So you have all the skills, all the knowledge that you've acquired over the years, but no one knows you and you know no one. What would you do? How would you restart things?
It's people. It's people. My mother told me a long time ago to surround myself with brilliant people, and hopefully I'll be guilty by association. And in the last chapter of my book, I talk about this. I've never been a collector. Like, I don't collect anything except for people. I collect people, rare, great character people. And I didn't realize I did this, but I'm very picky on a lot of acquaintances, but very picky on who I will allow in my inner circle, right? And there's two types of people. There's the people that that say you're your friend, and it might be you met them for a beer, and you told your wife you'd be home at 7:00, and there's one type of friend that says, hey, James, it's 6:15. Didn't you tell your wife you'd be home? Let's get the check so you can be. And there's the other person that says, let's order another one and she'll get over it, right? And that could be from let's go for a run in the morning to let's get that report done, or whatever it is. And it's really important that I surround myself with the people that make me better and that I aspire to be like. So it's just finding great people and being really choosy about it. And I have to be that to them.
So your new book is out now, The Relationship Economy. We're going to have a link to that book here as well. If people want to just kind of connect with you, learn, but so I know you have other parts of your business, into the training, the keynote speaking side, and the other things. Where's the best place for them to go and do that?
The website, thedijuliusgroup.com, thedijuliusgroup.com. Email me at john@thedijuliusgroup.com. Either one. Plenty of information, videos, a lot of free stuff that they can peruse on there and watch videos and read articles and all that good stuff.
Well, John, thank you so much for coming on today, talking about the power of relationships, building that great customer experience. And I wish you all the great success with this book, and hopefully we'll be sharing a stage together at some point in the future.
Thank you, James. I'd love that.
If you're interested in living a more creative life, then I'd love to invite you to join me as I share some of the most successful strategies and techniques that high-performing creatives use. I put them all together in a free downloadable ebook that you can get by going to jamestaylor.me. That's jamestaylor.me to get your free downloadable ebook on creativity.